knoll, and there are railroad tracks back here, and people running to that area to find out what the commotion was. So, you know, there had to be something going on back there. My dad allowed the Secret Service to take his film to Washington and study them for a good period of time. I'm afraid I can't be exact without doing a little research, but it seemed to us like, I don't know, maybe a couple of months. And my dad really felt like one of his photos was altered, because if you look at a memorial issue of 1964 Life magazine, there's a blue cover with John Connolly standing on the front, and that particular magazine, I think, is fairly valuable now. And inside, it retells the story of the assassination day, and there are several amateur photographers who have shots that were taken looking toward the grassy knoll and within seconds of each other. And so if you look at some of the other photographs, if you look at my dad's picture, the vantage point is slightly different, but it's the same subject matter. And so this loggia over here, this little concrete arcade that separates the grassy knoll from the train yards, you can see through that, and that day there were trains back there. And in some of the photographs, the trains show, and in my dad's particular photograph of that area, the train's missing. Now, the day of the assassination, my dad went to the Eastern Kodak lab where Mr. Zapruder and the Secret Service to have all their film developed at the same time. So my dad saw his film straight out of the camera. He knew what was in there, and when he got it back from Washington, the train was gone.
Really?
And nobody has been able to explain that to this day. So we have several reasons to think that there's a conspiracy. If you will look across Elm Street going toward the Triple Underpass, there is a signpost overhead where it says Commerce Street, Thornton Freeway, and Stemmons Freeway. And my dad and I were standing between the first silver pole and the black pole out in the park. And when the motorcade made its turn onto Elm, my dad had continued taking pictures, and when he got to that sign there, he stepped off of the curb and captured the shot that was the last photograph of Kennedy alive. And then the shots continued. Like I said, there are several photographs that a lot of people have not seen, and these are more than you would see inside the museum.
How do you feel about the museum?
I think they're doing an excellent job, quite honestly. They try to be objective and just present what happened. And they concentrate on Kennedy's administration. I think they've done it as tastefully as possible. Okay, this is the first photo my dad took as the motorcade proceeded toward the red courthouse that you see over here. This is the lead car in the motorcade, and the limousine will be right back here. Okay, here's the presidential limousine. Here is Kennedy. Okay, the limousine has made its turn onto Houston. Here's Jackie. Here's Mrs. Connolly. The Governor Connolly is right here, and here's President Kennedy. And my mother's so cute. She's always said that she didn't realize how red his hair was, but it was so sunny that day. He had the most gorgeous hair.
So you were actually up on the corner of Houston and Elm, and then hustled down here.
Well, Houston and Maine, and came down Houston to this corner, which is Houston and Elm.
Yeah.
Okay, so they are proceeding across this little short block of Houston Street. Here's the presidential limousine. This is the Secret Service car that they call the Queen Mary. Okay, now they are picking up speed here, and the presidential limousine has turned in front of the school book depository, and at that time they had screens in front of the building made of concrete, sort of like a concrete tile maybe. And so the picture is not quite as clear because of that, but as you can see, my dad was close. He had stepped off of the curb. It was just a few feet from the limousine. And at this time, I was by my dad's side at all times. I was a very dutiful child. My dad said, stay with me, I stayed with him. So I got to see everything that he did. Now, this is the picture that you've probably seen inside the museum. This is also the photo that my dad says the train is missing from because it's very white back here. At one time, a train was in there. Now, this is the last shot before Kennedy was hit. He has not been hit at all. And here's the president, and here's Jackie. And this is a gentleman that they have identified in some theories as the Umbrella Man.
You weren't aware of any shots to this point in time?
There were no shots until after this shot, or photograph. Okay, now, the shots have occurred. The president's limousine has made it down to this area just before the triple underpass. Another thing that's really odd, this gentleman was identified as someone who worked in maybe a shoe shop, and he is just walking along whistling like nothing has ever happened. Just walking up the road, just oblivious to the world.
But you know who he is?
I don't know his name. I think it's possible that he's been identified, but I personally don't know. I'd have to do a little research on that also. This is a press car, and people have, this is the Newman family. This lady and the two little boys, this is the Newman family. And they have, covered their children, and they're looking up the hill. And a lot of people seem to think that a gunman could have been in this area behind the picket fence. There are also some railroad workers up here. Read your books and you'll get to read about all these people that they talk about. But anyway, everybody is running this direction, partly because of the presidential limousine, but they're not running toward the school book depository, and they didn't run to the depository. Yeah, see, everybody's going this way, and also if the field or the range were wide enough for my dad's camera, you would have seen people going up the hill here also.
Hang on just for a minute, there's Beverly Oliver.
That's right, the babushka lady, that's right.
And in front of her with the red dress is Jean Hill that she spoke of.
That's correct, that's right. Now, my family stayed down here a while, and so the police have made it into the school book depository. This gentleman looks remarkably like Jack Ruby. Now, Gary Mack, who is here at the museum, says that it's not, but I couldn't tell you. But I do know this is a real picture of Jack Ruby. So, you decide. Very, very interesting.
Wow.
Hey, which guy?
Okay, this gentleman looks like Jack Ruby.
Oh,
my dad always thought that it was, and this is Jack Ruby. This was a photo taken when he was in court.
Well, it sure does.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah.
Now, these are just pictures of the crowd and the policemen outside of the depository. This is the depository building, and
Dow Tech's building across the street.
That's
here.
correct. That's right.
Just around the corner from us.
That's right. Now, this was purported to be the gun that Oswald used. The policeman brought it out and were holding it up for everybody to see.
So you stayed right here, didn't you?
We did. We stayed for a good period of time.
Wow.